We are officially back. We're in the heart of best ball season, of best ball summer, and Matt and I are here to break down our favorite Week 17 matchups to get you prepped for all of those remaining best balls. Let's get into it. Welcome to Summer School Club Fantasy's Best Ball Podcast. I am your host, Austin Amandolia, and with me, as always, is Matt Record. Matt, how are you doing? We made it back.
Made it back. It's an exciting year. It's a fun time. We have actual games happening on our screens. Yes, it's preseason, but it's nice seeing the jerseys out there and the ball going back and forth. So I'm really excited about best ball this year. You?
Oh, always excited about best ball. Now, with preseason games, you know it brings up the degenerates. And so I have to ask Matt, have you played any preseason DFS yet?
No DFS, but I have placed a couple of wagers. I was at the Fantasy Football Expo this last weekend, which was great, which is also in a state where you can legally gamble. And I live in a state where you can't. So you got to take advantage of every opportunity you can.
Yeah, I lived that life until North Carolina finally decided to get with the program, and now I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's great.
And if I could, I wouldn't, but here we are.
There you go. So we, as I mentioned, are going to be breaking down our favorite Week 17 matchups. We're using that really as a vehicle to talk about our strategy, but also so we can touch on every game and why we like different teams, different players throughout the league. We're not going to be going through as many detailed strategic conversations because we've done a lot of that in previous iterations of the show. And those strategies, I think they hold up. They hold water. They stand the test of time. So you can go back and rewatch those episodes. And if you disagree, you say this was a dumb take, come tell us, and then we can address it on a future episode. If you do have questions, you can drop those in the comments, or you can join our Discord. The link to that is in the show description. You can use that Discord to talk best ball with us. You can show us your lineups. We'll give feedback. We'll talk about what lineups we like, what we don't like. You can also ask any questions of us, and maybe we'll address some of those items on the show. But without further ado, we're going to get into our rankings. Now, we are going to start from the bottom, as all good ranking shows do. And we're only going to our ninth ranked game in this episode. We will do 1 through 8 in next week's episode. So you'll just have to come back to figure out who number 1 is in our book. So we're going to start with Matt. Matt, who do you have ranked 16th, bottom of the barrel, worst matchup to be looking at for Week 17?
Yeah, it really should come as no surprise. But, just a high level, here's what we're looking for. Or at least here's what I am looking for in these games. So I'm looking for 2 teams that are still going to be playing for something Week 17, right? They're not going to be resting their starters, not going to be playing the young guys to see what they have. They got to be playing. 2, it needs to be in a place that typically has decent weather. A dome would be great, but you don't want to get to Week 17, all of a sudden you have that game that my Patriots and the Bills had where the wind was blowing like 35 miles an hour and no one can do anything but run. And 3, part of that is looking at implied totals. So what does Vegas think? Right now, the total number of points that are going to be scored. So good players, good teams, good weather, teams that are going to be playing for something. That's what counts. So let's talk about just the exact opposite of all of those things, which is the Steelers playing at the Browns. It has an implied total of 40.5 points, the lowest as of the recording of this implied total as of right now of all the games. God, it's just awful. I mean, the Steelers, who knows what they're going to be this year? I mean, do we believe in Rodgers' last year? I personally don't. They went so old. They chose old. So I don't love the Steelers at all. And then the Browns. I mean, do I need to say more? I don't think so. They're both bad. Teams are going to be bad. It's a divisional matchup. They're going to not score a whole lot of points. The weather might be terrible in Cleveland. We don't even know who's going to be throwing the ball in Cleveland. Avoid them.
Yeah, I too have this Cleveland-Pittsburgh matchup ranked 16th. And for anyone who watched our Week 17 breakdowns last year, you know that I have several criteria I use. I incorporate the Week 17 total lines, the Week 15 and 16 total lines for their full playoff schedule for those underdog playoff tournament-style contests. But I also do some more subjective some more subjective metrics. So I base what I consider risk based on the overall quality of the roster, but also the risk for injury and uncertainty with who's going to be on the field even in week 17. I rate it on stackability, how easy it is to get multiple players from these games, which surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, this game does rank very high in that front because it is really easy to stack this matchup if you would like. I also rank it for uniqueness. Also ranks very high in that front because it would be very unique to go this route and to say that this is going to be the matchup. And I also rank on depth and overall roster quality. So depth meaning how late in the draft can I get quality players, and they kind of are short on that end. So I averaged these all together, and they got a whopping score of 3.7 out of 10 for me. It is really rough in Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Honestly, the Cleveland side scares me off almost as much as the Pittsburgh side, but definitely more. The Pittsburgh side is just like, what is Aaron Rodgers going to be this season and at week 17 in general? You know, maybe I will draft one team where I focus on this matchup, but primarily if I'm targeting this matchup at all, it's like sprinkling it in here and there. It's having a stack from this matchup, so maybe there's some exposure. Like maybe, for example, I have a team where, I don't know, it has the Detroit Lions involved because Pittsburgh plays the Detroit Lions in week 16. And I'm like, you know what? I got one Pittsburgh player, so I have some correlation for that week 16 matchup. And so I'm also going to pick a Cleveland player for the week 17, and that's about it. But that is the maximum I am doing. I feel like both of these offenses could be really bad this year, and the rosters are very thin. So I also have them ranked 16th. Matt, I'm so curious. Who do you have at 15th? Because there's a lot of really close runners up in my mind for the second worst matchup in week 17.
Yeah, I mean, there's some just real bad games. So for me personally, who I have at 15th, I have the Saints at the Titans. Again, a couple other teams that we don't really know what we're going to get out of there. So the Saints, implied total of 42.5 points, if that's something you care about. I mean, the Saints, we think they're going to have a rookie quarterback, and I'm going to mispronounce his name. Sorry, Shuff. Tyler Shuff.
I've heard many iterations of it.
Tyler S. At quarterback, and we don't know what that's going to be, right? Rookie quarterback. You know, who knows? You don't love the positional players there. I mean, you have Olave if he stays on the field. Kamara had a really nice year last year, but you know he's getting older. How much do you trust that in these big leagues? And then you go over to the Titans. Again, rookie quarterback Cam Ward. At least he's the 101, right, from the NFL draft. But positionally, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, like, do these people get you excited? Chig O, because I don't know how to say his last name. So yeah, two rookie quarterbacks in a presumably meaningless game. At least the weather might be nice there in Tennessee, but I'm not really writing either of these teams because they both might be playing for something, and that might be the first overall pick.
That's a good point. It definitely could easily be the first overall pick for these two. So I promise we're not going to agree the whole night, but we do agree on this one as well. I also have this Tennessee Saints matchup ranked 15th. As Matt mentioned, it's a 42.5 point total. Their playoff schedule is also not that great in terms of oversight, in terms of projected points at this point, but also just the roster quality, to your point, is not great. Like, out of the 16 matchups in week 17, this matchup has the lowest ADP for the first player taken from the matchup in Calvin Ridley. There's a player taken from every other matchup before it gets to this one. So, I mean, honestly, there was part of me that's like, I could argue for this being the worst overall matchup. And in fact, I was toying with my numbers a little bit to see what happens if I don't account for what the betting lines are, because I have a formula built in that, like, whatever normalizes it, etc., ranks them. If I take that out, suddenly this matchup becomes my least favorite because I think the rosters are even worse to me than the Cleveland-Pittsburgh situation, particularly for Pittsburgh. For Pittsburgh, I can see a vision with some of those guys, like Caleb Johnson coming in at the running back position. I feel some optimism there. If Aaron Rodgers is just decent, I think like that pass game can be way more cohesive and competitive this year. And so it's like, okay, I can sort of see a pathway for Pittsburgh. with Tennessee and New Orleans, I do not see the path. I'm worried that like they're going to both be injury riddled, or we're relying on unsure players to really break through, especially on, like you said, the New Orleans State side. I have no idea what to expect from this rookie quarterback. I'm not expecting a lot. I didn't like this quarterback class in general, so I'm pretty much avoiding this matchup altogether. I think I will maybe get some Alvin Kamara. You know, he could have a 5 touchdown game in week 17 and win you $1 million. So like, it's worth taking him here and there. And on the Tennessee side, I hate almost every position group in this room. I like Cam Ward a little bit. I'm like intrigued by it as a late round, but it's just like, it's hard for me to really buy into the upside case there for Tennessee. Again, it's a similar thing to what we said with the prior matchup. I will look at other teams that are playing them, like Kansas City plays Tennessee in week 16. So if you have a Kansas City stack, like getting some Tennessee action there, maybe then you throw in a New Orleans player, but I'm not breaking my back to get exposure to this matchup.
No chance.
So we're going to disagree a little bit now, which is always good. Matt, you have a different matchup ranked 14th than I do. Who do you have as your 14th best week 17 matchup?
Now, a little foreshadowing. We're not disagreeing by that much for what it's worth at home. But my 14th, it's my Patriots against the New York Jets. Implied total of 41.5. For me, like I said, what I care about in these games at the end of the year are these teams going to be playing for anything, and what's the weather going to be like. New York, might be really terrible, right? Both weather-wise and football-wise. So, like looking at the Jets, there's some folks that are Justin Fields truthers. He does a lot rushing, and that's awesome. Great. But is he still going to be playing for them week 17? I don't know. Other than that, I do like Garrett Wilson as well. But in order for Garrett Wilson to actually hit, you need a quarterback that can throw it to him. I don't know if you've seen the videos at a camp, but like Justin Fields doesn't look like he's the same Justin Fields, right? Not a super accurate passer. He's going to get you a lot of points running, but like, can he actually deliver to Garrett Wilson, right? And then who else on that Jets team do you feel at all confident about? Breece Hall. There's talks out of camp that Braylon Allen and Go Badgers is going to take over some of his stuff, right? So he might not live up to value. So it's a big wild card, and the weather in New York might be bad. So that's why I had this one lower than I think you did. Then my Patriots, I think the Patriots have a lot of upside. Like, I like what Drake May can do. There's a bunch of wide receivers that are about the same amount of talent. And I do like Hunter Henry a lot, which I wrote about if you check out the articles on clubfantasy.com. You love what you see out of Travion Henderson as well, right? And I think the offense is better in general. I know I'm talking about them a lot because they're my team. But I think it's going to be in every given week who's going to be the person that actually puts up the points you need. And that's why I had it rated lower. I think there's a lot of value in stacks with the Patriots because a lot of people are taking them later than other folks because of that variability. So I love that you, Austin, care about that. And I do think there is a way that drafting a Patriots stack will help you win a bunch of money. I just don't have any certainty as someone who follows them all the time to tell you exactly who you should get. So without going all in on the Patriots, which is probably a mistake for a team that, again, might be bad, despite optimism, I just don't. There's enough here that I don't love that it ranks, 14th for me.
Yeah. So as Matt mentioned, we do not disagree that much on this. I have this matchup ranked at 13th. So a little bit higher, but still pretty bottom of the barrel. Now, what I will say about that is they scored 4.1 out of 10 for me overall. And that, again, incorporates the playoff betting line totals and the week 17 betting line totals in particular. If I remove those and I just focus on my other categories of criteria, their score moves up to 5.2, which unfortunately only bumps him up to like 11th overall because there's a big jump between 11th and 12th and 13th for me in my rankings. But it is an improvement. And I think, Matt, you hit the nail on the head. To me, the case here for betting on this, because the thing is, it's ranked low, but I still like it a little bit because I like the Patriots side. I like betting on Drake May to take a step forward this year. And I think it is a worthy bet to make. Now, I'm not going to draft 6-7 players from this matchup. I'm probably going to draft 3 or 4. Like maybe I get Garrett Wilson earlier in the draft, or Breece Hall. Pick one of those two, and then do Drake May and I don't know, Kayshon Boutte. He had some good games last year. If I do that, I'm like, I got enough exposure to this matchup. That's pretty nice. Maybe I add one more Patriot, a Hunter Henry. Like Hunter Henry is usually a good part of this, important part of the Patriots offense. Like that's probably as deeply as I'm going into this matchup. And I think it's worth the upside because sometimes you don't need like the double, triple, quadruple stack in week 17. Sometimes if you just have the right stack and then the rest of the roster around it, that's enough to do really well in these tournaments, especially if you're in a tournament where the advanced structures are much easier along the way. So Best Ball Mania is like you have to be like top one out of 16 in weeks 15 and 16 to get to the final, and the final's like 500 people. It's tough. So you have to be focusing on more upside throughout. But there are contests that'll come out on Underdog, and that came out earlier in the summer where you have to beat 5 other people to make it to the next round, and then the final's like 100 people. At that point, it's not as important to have like a ton of stacking or a ton of like double and triple stacks in your lineup. A skinny stack can actually be really effective in that format. So I do like that with this matchup.
Yeah, and I'll add with all of the ones we've talked about so far, I think these are great opportunities for sort of backdoor stacks. Not stacks that you're like relying on. Like, spoiler alert, we really like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't? That's one that you can rely on. Say, yeah, this is actually going to get me there. These are ones you can wait on. And then if you want pepper a little something in there, like it's your QB 2 or 3 and they're like wide receiver 2 or 3, that I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, completely agree with that. So we're going to move on to your 13th ranked matchup. Matt, who do you have ranked 13th?
Okay. It's the New York Giants at the Las Vegas Raiders. Implied total 42.5. This is a dome game, so we don't have to care about weather. We love that. I rank this one slightly higher than Patriots Jets because I think both of these teams are going to be better than what people think they are going to be. So I don't necessarily have faith in them being great, but in terms of where you can draft folks in those stacks and what I think the potential return, I think it's slightly higher from both sides than the Patriots Jets game. So I say all that. I mean, who knows who's going to be trotted out week 17 for the Giants? I hope it's Jackson Dart by that point. But if it's not him, that means Russell Wilson's doing something, right? Or Jameis Winston, right? He's on that team for whatever reason. You have Malik Neighbors there, right? We have Tyron Tracy, who did pretty well at the running back position. And they went and drafted Cam Scatabo, which people are pretty high on too. There's a lot of the Giants are going to be not great on defense. They're going to be on offense a lot. I don't know. I'm on the Giants. And then the Raiders, now that we have Pete Carroll, an actual coach there, everyone obviously loves Brock Bowers. Everyone is super on Ashton Genty, right? Jacoby Myers, all he does is put up wide receiver 18 points every year, but he continues to be drafted as a wide receiver 3. It's bananas. And they have Geno Smith, an actual professional quarterback playing for them. We're not rolling out Aiden O'Connell or whoever. It's like an actual quarterback that they paid with a coach that's familiar with him, right? So there's a lot of, and none of these players other than, of course, Genty and Brock Bowers. Great, I know. But they're you can get them for fairly cheap, right? So from my perspective, again, this is not, unless you can somehow finagle Genty and Brock Bowers and Geno Smith sort of stack. This is not something that I would rely on week in, week out. I just think there's a lot of potential for this to be higher scoring than people think, with players that are going to produce better throughout the entire year. Like you said, you have to make it to the playoffs for this to even matter. I think there's a nice balance there for why I had them higher than you did.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually also really convincing and would make me maybe push this up a little bit in front of the New York Jets and New England Patriots, because also for reference, I mentioned the New England Patriots Jets game was scored at 4.1 for me. This matchup, the Vegas Raiders versus the New York Giants, was ranked at 4.0. So very close together. But I think most of it is because I look at the Giants side of this and I could see this going south so quickly. I could see week 6 coming and all of a sudden everybody is fired and this season is just lost and miserable for the Giants. And so that side of this matchup really worries me. But the Vegas side, I'm so with you. I love the Vegas Raiders this year. Having Geno Smith there, quarterback, Jacoby Myers, Jack Bash, like they have a lot of places where you can go without necessarily hitting on the early round guys and Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. And outside of their Week 17 game against the Giants, which could be a slugfest or it could be a gross game, they do play the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 15 and the Houston Texans in Week 16. So I actually really like their schedules in Weeks 15 and 16 more than I do in Week 17, and that in some ways would push them up for me a little bit more, and is why I'm interested in them. And it's also why I'm actually getting a decent amount of exposure to the Raiders in drafts, because I have a Philadelphia Eagles build, so I'm going to try and add in that Week 15 element with the Vegas Raiders, and I think it's very worth doing. They are relatively cheap in terms of ADP outside of the top two guys, but even if you were to say, oh, I really want to go in on the Vegas Raiders, you can get Ashton Genty in round 1 and maybe still get Brock Bowers in round 2, and then it's going to be a lot easier for you to get Jacoby Myers and Geno Smith later. Now, it's going to be tough to do that. It's probably going to be a rare circumstance, but I think it is actually possible that it could happen in some of your drafts. So I see the vision there. I totally get why they'd be 13th, and I think because of how much I like the Vegas Raiders this year in general, also just from a fantasy perspective, I could see pushing them up a little bit more despite my ranking on this show. Okay, so we've gotten through our first 4. So again, 16th was Cleveland versus Pittsburgh, 15th was Tennessee versus New Orleans, 14th was the Raiders versus the Giants. For Matt, had the Jets and the Patriots, and then we basically flipped them. I had the Jets and the Patriots at 13. Matt had the Raiders and the Giants there. So getting into the top 12, Matt, who do you have ranked 12?
I know people didn't like seeing us fight about that. I know that was really tough for our studio audience. We are back on the same page for number 12. We've made up. Life is good. We have the Seattle Seahawks playing at the Carolina Panthers. Implied total of 43.5 here. Again, nice weather in Carolina, right? Maybe just some rain. But I really like, again, both of these sides. We're talking up some of these other games, but the higher and higher we get up in our rankings here, it's like, oh no, I like these teams better. So we're doing our things right. But yeah, starting with the Seattle Seahawks, obviously they have a new quarterback in Sam Darnold, who all he did was light it up for the Vikings last year. He got paid. I know we have that bad taste in our mouth from the final 2 or 3 games for Darnold there, but again, he seems to have figured something out, and that's nice. And I mean, look at who he's throwing to. Jackson Smith, Najigba, JSN. He had a nice breakout year last year with debatably a worse quarterback in Geno Smith, and we just talked about him. But they also signed Cooper Kupp, if he still got something left in him, and drafted Torrey Horton. And then running back, you have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Whatever. The Seahawks are still poised to score a bunch of points and be a problem. They have one of the top defenses, which means I think they are still going to be playing for something here, which is important for me when it comes down to that. And then moving over to the Panthers, I think the Panthers, which, famous last words, I think the Panthers might actually be good this year. Bryce Young showed something there at the end of the year, last 6 to 8 weeks after he got a starting job back from Andy freaking Dalton. But he showed something. Chuba Hubbard was very good. The Panthers invested in Tet McMillan in the first round, so giving giving Bryce Young just another big target. Adam Thielen's still there. Xavier Legette, I think, rising tides lift all ships, so to speak. So I think with Bryce being better and now there's more mouths to feed on there, I think the Panthers are going to be better. So with that, and again, we're still in this, bottom. I guess we just finished the bottom quarter, but in like the second bottom quarter, you can get all these stacks for really cheap, like really cheap. Like it doesn't have to be your primary one, and you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want. So I don't know about you, but I think this is going to surprise people, but I like this one.
Yeah, I also have them ranked at 12, but I don't feel as optimistic about it as you do, which That's because I'm just down on the Panthers. I think in general, my biggest concern with this matchup is these teams in general is honestly the roster. I am not as sold on that. Once you get to Xavier Legette, who of the players in this matchup is the seventh player off the board from these two teams, I start to feel a little nervous. I'm like, maybe they can do it. Maybe Legette can do it. Maybe Adam Thielen can do it again. But then it gets real down bad really quickly. Rico Dowdle is the 10th player off the board in this matchup, and before Sam Darnold, which feels wrong to me. And then, Jalen Coker had some flashes. I don't know that it's going to continue to pan out over the next year. I will say Elijah Arroyo and Torrey Horton late. I'm a little bit more convinced about those, but I'm a little bit worried about the depth on the Panthers side. And so this is one where, again, I would prefer to stay reserved. I might get Ted McMillan, Chuba Hubbard, and Bryce Young and call it a day. On their side, or maybe just two of those three. The Seattle side, I just don't know what to make of Sam Darnold. I'm like, it's so hard for me to imagine a guy coming from Kevin O'Connell's offense doing better than what he did in Kevin O'Connell's offense. And so for that reason, I am a little bit pumping the brakes, but they do pan out in my ranks as the 12th best matchup. They have a decent playoff schedule in terms of their overall playoff total. In terms of the betting lines, they're ranked 10th currently. They're projected to have scored the 10th most points in the playoffs based on those betting lines. So, it's not top 5, but you're getting out of the bottom 5, which is nice. So there's some upside there. I'm not as optimistic as I am with, say, the Raiders.
It's fair. I mean, Sam Darnold, though, is going off the board as QB 27 right now in these best balls. Last year, he finished as QB 7. So, yeah, he's not going to be QB 7 in this offense, right, going from Kevin O'Connell. But QB 27, again, this is free. This is absolutely free. Why not him? But as you said, we're in the 13th or 12th ranked game. Don't go all in on these people.
It's hilarious to me that we have them ranked at the same exact spot, but we have more disagreement about these two than the ones that we have ranked.
I love it. That's what we do.
Perfect. Well, let's move on to our 11th ranked matchup, which I think is going to be another place where we. Oh wait, no, we do differ. Good. Get some disagreement. So tell me, who do you have ranked 11th?
Yeah, 11th, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Indianapolis Super Colts. Implied total of 45.5, which actually some of the games that I have above this have lower implied totals. But I don't. We'll talk. Yeah, so it's in the dome. We like that. We love the weather. But who the heck is playing QB for the Colts at this point? Is it Daniel freaking Jones? Is it Richardson? We don't know. A lot of their playmakers, too, have injury histories. I love me some Jonathan Taylor. Again, go Badgers. But he gets dinged up all the time. There's a lot of chances for the Colts to have a good year fantasy-wise, but I just don't know who I need to be drafting right now for that to work week 17. So for me, it's slightly more variable for the Colts, which is why this is lower for me. Now, the Jaguars, I'm semi-bullish on the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence, we kind of know who he is at this point, and he's being drafted accordingly, but that's nice because you can plan around that. It's just a matter of which player are you going to be drafting to be stacking with Lawrence. We know Brian Thomas is really good. We know that happened last year. They went and got Travis Hunter. It seems like he's really good. Now, which one is going to end up being the wide receiver 1 here? I still have my money on Brian Thomas, as we all should, until we see something different. But you can get one of those guys and get Trevor Lawrence later, because I don't know exactly where he's going off. Let me see. Oh, QB 20. Great. Again, kind of free, but you can stack with him pretty easily. A lot of question marks at the running back position there with the Jaguars as well. People love their rookies. Travis Etienne is still there. Tank Bixby, I believe, is still there. People like what's his name? Tootin? Tootin?
Yeah, Basil Tootin.
Yeah. So there's a lot to like there on the Jaguar side, which is why I have them higher than those other matchups. And I do think that the Colts, if done right, can be good. I forgot about Tyler Warren, of course, for the Colts. Like that, an exciting rookie. And in a dome, so good weather. But there's some risk here.
Yes, there's definitely some risk here. And that is where they really got hurt in my ranking. So I have them ranked 10th overall, a little bit ahead of where Matt is at. And it was funny when I was going through and doing this, I rank everybody on risk on a scale of just 1 to 10. And I initially was like 6. They're like, kind of in the middle. And then I was like, wait a minute, who the heck's the quarterback? 8 immediately. And it basically took them from being in the top half of my rankings to the bottom half of my rankings, because there's a lot that I am intrigued by with these teams, especially on the Jacksonville Jaguars side. But like you mentioned, I'm nervous as heck about the offensive line in Jacksonville in particular. And so to me, like, yeah, the pass catchers, even the running back room, I think is an interesting situation. Like, is one you can take advantage of. I'm a big fan of the idea that Tank Bigsby is going to be the primary back there, and so like you should be drafting him. And so there's some opportunities there that I enjoy, but I also worry that at week 11, like this team is like off the rails again, on a trajectory to a top 5 draft pick. So there is a decent amount of risk involved. And then on the Colts side, as you mentioned, like, is it Daniel Jones? Is it Anthony Richardson? I have no idea. I'm weirdly more interested if I think it's Daniel Jones, but also like he has his own injury history. So it's just, there is a lot of risk involved. Because of that, I think there's some interesting upside. And I think if you target it right, and pick some of the like right players from this, it can work, which is like a dumb thing to say because it's obvious. But I do think there's like, you can be strategic and saying like, I think Jonathan Taylor's going to do well regardless of who's that quarterback. And I think that's true. I think he could have a really good season either way. And he feels a little bit underrated and like going under the radar this offseason. So to me, he's an interesting guy to look at, especially if you're going not necessarily 0 RB, but like you're waiting on running back and getting a receiver with your first pick. The receiver rooms in both of these outside of Malik Neighbors is very ambiguous. And so I think there's a lot to be taken advantage of in that situation where you can pick different guys in different drafts and hit on them. But this, because of how ambiguous it is, it's again, not a situation where I'd be like taking a bunch of these guys. Like I would try and sprinkle them throughout different drafts so that, you get it right somewhere rather than like getting it wrong in the one draft that you went all in on the Giants and the Jaguars. So, okay, we disagree on that one. But again, very similar to before, the people you have, the game you have at ranks next is who I had at 11th. So who do you have ranked 10th overall?
Yeah, great minds think alike here. So 10th overall, a game that I think is going to be a really great professional football game, despite maybe not being the best fantasy game. But the Houston Texans against the Chargers, implied total of 43.5. It is a dome game. And for me, it's kind of two offenses that kind of disappointed a smidge, especially in the Texans last year. So some people are fading them now, but they should be playing for something. I mean, the Chargers should be very good at the very least. I mean, tough division, should be playing for a wild card spot at least. The Texans, I would argue, easier division, little regression back to the positive mean they should be playing for the division still at that point. But why I love this, and I sound like a broken record, pun intended, is you can get some stacks here super easily. Justin Herbert is going off the board as QB 16. CJ Stroud is going off the board as QB 19, which in the grand scheme of things, I like to base some of these later round stacks on QBs that are going to be available in those middle rounds. I'm not dependent on having a really good pick to get a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. Like I can get these guys at reasonable prices. And both Stroud and blanking on his name. I just said it. Herbert. Geez, sorry. Have flashed, top 5 upside, right? I mean, Herbert a little more so. I mean, Stroud, excellent campaign his rookie year. I think he finished as QB 7. Disappointed greatly last year. I understand that, but a lot of the pieces are still in place for him to have a great year. I know that offensive line is not great, but still, he's QB 19. Like you're drafting him as QB 2 for yourself, right? With upside. Bunch of playmakers. We will see on Joe Mixon how healthy he is come start of the year. But we like him. We have Nico Collins. We have they drafted Jaden Higgins. They rookie from a few years ago. Doesn't matter. The Texans have a lot of options there, and often slept on. See, I'm just being awful with names. I'm just what's the tight end for the Texans?
Oh, Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz, who's super slept on. Like when Stroud is good, Schultz is good. So these are very easy stacks you can have. And then on the Chargers side, there's a lot of buzz, right? They should be a very good team. We have Amari and Hampton there at running back. Don't sleep on Najee Harris. I wrote about him as well. Read up on that. Lad McConkey, people love him. They drafted Trey Harris as well. There's a lot of playmakers there that are being drafted in those middle zones that you, again, aren't reliant on necessarily nabbing them in the early rounds to get these stacks. And they're going to be playing for something. So I'm really bullish on this one. Would love to hear why you're not as bullish.
Yeah. So, I mean, the short version of it is everything with this team was just kind of like, it's fine. Like, whatever. They scored 5.4 out of 10 overall for me whenever I came through all my rankings. Like, as you already alluded to, like, they don't have a super high over under for week 17. The playoff schedule is a little bit better than their week 17 matchup is overall. But then, like, everything else is like, I mean, it's not really that risky, but it's also could be very risky because we've seen both of these teams fall apart. So they were slapped up in the middle on that. They are stackable, but then, like, there are weird times where they're not. It's like Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, Najee Harris, and all go right next to each other. So you're probably only getting one of those guys. There's some closeness there, but really what it came down to for me was honestly the overall roster quality did not blow me away, because when I look at these teams, I look at the order in which I can draft them. So for these two teams, it goes Nico Collins. You can get him in the second round. Lad McConkey also round 2. And then right away, Marion Hampton. I am down on Marion Hampton. I know we recorded a ranking show Wednesday night where we talked about Marion Hampton, and I'm pretty confident Josh thinks that he needs to be ranked higher than where we have him. I don't care. I'm down on Marion Hampton. I don't think he's going to be like a 3-down back that sets the world by storm. Joe Mixon comes off the board next in this matchup. He's probably hurt or going to be hurt. And then we get a slew of question marks. Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, and Najee Harris. Don't really know what's going to happen. I'm not sleeping on Najee Harris. I agree with you on like still looking at him, but there's still a lot of unknown there. You can get Justin Herbert late. I like Christian Kirk late and CJ Stroud late. But like this is the thing with this matchup. None of their elite options are intriguing to me. It isn't until we get to the 11th or 12th round where I'm like, okay, now I want to draft these teams. Like once we get to Justin Herbert, Christian Kirk, CJ Stroud, Quentin Johnston, that round, that of the 4 rounds in like rounds 10 through 13, sure, that's fine by me. But everything before that is not, I'm not super excited about. So I'm a little bit down on this. Again, like I will not say no to any matchup, right? Like I will have a little bit of exposure to everything. But for me, it's one that I'm a little bit lower on. I'd rather go a different direction. Honestly, like the Indy Jacksonville one, part of the reason that it also is intriguing to me is I think it's a little bit more unique than the Chargers Houston, because I feel like people are going to be sleeping on those offenses and betting more on a bounce back from the Chargers and the Texans than they are from either the Colts or the Jaguars. So that's where we differ on it, but like it's all in the same ballpark. And I think we're taking a very similar approach where it's still like, treat it, get the guys you like, and don't overpay for any of these guys. But overall, like it's still the 10th best matchup that we see in week 17.
Yeah, you're not risking your entire season on this because it's still, at the end, we're still middle to late here, right? So it's just, pick your flavor.
Yeah. Now, I am fascinated to talk about this next one because we fully agreed on this one. And this is going to be the last one where we agree so closely. After this, the top 8, which we'll get in the next episode, things get a little bit wild, which I'm really looking forward to. But we fully agreed on this one, and it is a shocker to me that it is outside of the top half of our favorite Week 17 matchups. Matt, reveal to the audience, who do we both have ranked 9th?
This game is going to heckin' rule, which is, again, surprising why it's here. But it is the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. Implied total of 44.5 right now. I mean, this might be for the division at this point. Like a lot of people, I mean, people are talking about the Chargers, right? And I'm higher on the Raiders, but people are really high on the Broncos, and Pat Mahomes just does Pat Mahomes things. It doesn't matter, right? But holy cow, do both of these teams have good defenses, which is why I have them ninth. Like, yes, we can talk about how much we think Bo Nix is going to rock. He probably will. Who is he throwing to necessarily? You know, looking at the roster, it's a bunch of people that I don't think I have any exposure to in any drafts, right? Like it's Bo Nix story, and then RJ Harvey, and maybe a little bit of J.K. Dobbins. But Sutton, old, gets hurt. Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, like Troy Franklin, maybe it's his time. Like, and Evan Ingram, I don't know. There's not much there. It's like the Bo Nix story, right? But Denver has just an elite defense. I think they outscored every other team defense for those that are in there, like 40 points total. Over like the second best last year. They're elite. They're so good, which is a problem when you're trying to pick players from, say, the Kansas City Chiefs that are playing them in this week. The Chiefs, we know who the Chiefs are, right? We have Pat Mahomes, we have Travis Kelce, we have Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, just a lot of well-known names because the Chiefs are well covered because they're always really good, right? But again, I'm worried because they're going against a really good defense. And don't sleep on the Chiefs defense. So, we expect Bo Nix to do things with his legs and do everything we want him to do. But with this game mattering for division playoffs or the division and playoff implications, with the Chiefs being at home, I'm kind of envisioning a lower scoring game. It's this high because of how big these names are that we're talking about. A lot of these people, I think, will help get you into the playoffs. Like, I'm not saying don't draft them, but if you are drafting with the intention that, this is going to win me all the money in week 17, I don't know if that's it. And getting ahead of something I think you're going to say in terms of being different than other folks, these are big names. These are big names in fantasy sports. So you're not going to be surprising anyone, and a lot of people will be drafting them as well.
Yeah, I think that's totally correct. And that's exactly why they didn't rank super highly for me either. So they got a score of 5.9 out of 10 across all of my categories that I use. The thing that was hard, I mean, not only do I think it's not going to be that unique, it's also there's not a ton of depth here. Once you start getting further down the draft board, it's hard to find guys that I feel like have true elite upside in this matchup. I feel like really Travis Kelce is the last marker on that. Like Evan Ingram, I'm a little nervous about him in this offense. Marvin Mims, we haven't quite seen it from him yet. Hollywood Brown, I think, is an exception to this. He could have a good season. Then you get to like Pat Bryant. I'm not sure about that. Jalen Royals, the rookie, intriguing-ish. Rashard Smith, the running back, I'm not interested in that. Kareem Hunt, not interested in him. Noah Gray, okay. Yeah, he had some good games last year. But then like the further down you go this board, there are some late dart throws I'll take, but it's not, you don't get as many late round options here. You're going to be, if you're attacking this matchup, you're getting most of your players from it in the first 9 or 10 rounds. That said, I do love betting on the Kansas City Chiefs this year. I'm very in on the theory that this could be the year that particularly Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce bounce back and they help get people to the to the best ball playoffs and even potentially have some upside during the playoffs. So I think having a Mahomes Kelce stack is a really great strategy. And then you use the other 16 to 18 picks, depending on whether you're on Underdog or DraftKings, to get different and to get your uniqueness there, because I agree with what Matt said. These are big names. People are going to be still drafting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, maybe less than they used to, but I do think there will be enough people that you can't just rely on it and say like, oh, nobody's going to do this year. Yes, they are. They're going to do it. You got to find other ways to get creative, like doing Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelce. That's one way to like get a little bit different even within just this matchup. Doing maybe getting Jalen Royals as your receiver as part of the double stack there. There are ways you can get creative within the matchup, but I think primarily the way I'm looking at this matchup is you get Mahomes and Kelce as your foundation and you build around it and you find other ways to create upside. Maybe you get one player from the Broncos side of this. On the Broncos side too, like it's a similar conversation. Like I feel concerned about the depth of the roster outside of Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, and RJ Harvey. Like, I just don't know who is going to ultimately pan out on that side. I think that's why, like, if you are to attack this matchup and have like a Mahomes Kelsey stack, it's worth taking some late round dart throws, like maybe one per draft on some player from the Denver side. I would recommend a receiver from the Denver side, if I had to say, because I don't think any of the running backs, Jaleel McLaughlin or Audric Estime, are going to pan out. Like, I think if they were going to, they would have last year. They had a better chance. And now they brought in RJ Harvey as a rookie. So I think the upside shot on the Denver side is in the receiver room, not in the running back room. But overall, this matchup, I don't think it has a ton of upside itself, but there are pieces within it that I think are very worth attacking. Okay, we've made it through our worst 8 matchups for week 17. Talked about a lot of players. Very, very fun conversation. I'm excited to get to the final 8 because, I mean, off the bat, we disagree about, 8. We disagree about 7, 6, 5. I mean, I think we basically disagree everywhere.
It gets really tough because you have really good teams in varying different states. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting to talk about it. So hopefully y'all are still listening.
Yeah, and you can catch us. We're going to be doing just a few episodes for Best Ball this month. We'll have these 2 ranking episodes where we go through every week 17 matchup, give some quick takes on it, on how you can attack it and draft players from those matchups. And then we will be doing a live draft for our 3rd episode. So come check us out for that. And again, don't forget, join the Discord. That's where we will talk the most about best ball. Also, if you're a DFS person, we'll talk about DFS lineups when the season starts there. So it's a great place to be. Join the community. Come chat with us. Hit that link. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. Really helps us out as we're trying to build this website, this page. Make sure you follow us on all the socials at Club Fantasy FFL and check out our website, clubfantasyffl.com. For Matt Record, I'm Austin Amendolia. This has been Summer School. Remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and best ball wins money. See you next time.